So Group B plastics can be protected as class 4 commodities design density curve, and Group C plastics can be protected at class 3rd commodities. So when you are designing Group A, B, and C plastics areas, you have to take the density curve from class 3 or class 4 commodities. Here we have one density curve, but this is not the one we used to see in chapter 11 of design approach in NFPA 13 for light hazard, ordinary or extra hazard. This is for commodities classifications, class 1, class 2, class 3, and class 4, right? If you can look at a class 1, right? Class 1 design density is starting from 0.2 at this 0.2.2 with a minimum area of consideration of 2000 square feet. And class 2, class 3 and 4 going on up to 0.4. If you are going for class 4 commodities, right? For class 4 commodities, we have to at least consider 0.38 in between 0.38 and 0.3 based on the square feet consideration. So if you are taking this value, right, if you are taking 0.38, then we can go up to area of 2000 square feet. If you are taking a value of 0.3, then we have to take area of 3000 square feet. So that we can multiply area protection plus density into density curve. So normally when you are designing the storage protection, there are different chapters for this one. Those chapters started from chapter 12 all the way to chapter 21 of NFPA handbooks. So each kind of the storage arrangement, each kind of the commodities required different kind of the protection methodologies. Just keep in design density curve for class 1 to class 4 is it is 0.2 to 0.4. But if you are looking at that, we'll show after some time for the light hazard or extra hazard group occupancies. For the light hazard, we need only 0.1 is 0.10 for area of 1500 square feet. So we'll discuss that one. Now, how if you are dealing with the plastic commodities, right? And we have to decide how to decide the plastic commodities classification, right? So plastics comes under 3 classifications. We have group A, group B, and group C. I discussed in the previous slide that group B is protected as class 4 commodities and group C is protected as class 3rd commodities, right? So coming all the way directly to group A plastics, which is the most hazardous one, right? So group A plastics comes under 3 categories. Cartoon, if it is cartoon plastic, means the plastic stored in a cartoon, that should be protected as for chapter 17. If it's exposed, there is no packaging for those products, like the thermocol items are known in the factories or the warehouse. If there are no packaging, if it is exposed, further we have to go to 2 different topics, right? Either it is expanded or non-expanded. The one we discussed in previous class, that expanded means we put some steam into the steam blower and we decrease the density of the product, right? Like thermocol items and all. And non-expanded means the same as raw material storage, or we make sometime product like PET, some kind of the piping and all, we make from direct raw materials. So if you want to decide about the types of the plastics and all for your project, you have to read directly chapter 17 of NFPA 13. But you know, NFPA 13 is divided all the way from chapter 12 to chapter 21, right? So chapter 12 is common requirement for all kind of the storage arrangement. So you must have to read chapter 12 because it will give you the complete idea of the storage protection, the general one which apply for all the remaining chapter from chapter 13 to from chapter 14 to chapter 22. Suppose you want to protect for the plastics, right? You want to protect group A plastic, so you have to read NFPA chapter 12, which is must for you to read and decide from there, and then go all the way to chapter 17 or chapter 17 for of NFPA 13 to decide the density for the water protection, size, types of the sprinkler system, minimum pipe diameter, minimum pressure requirement for the system. But again, this storage is very vast, very vast topics. We need to study a lot, and we have to go in detail from NFPA 13 handbook. We cannot cover those all here because it will take a lot of time. What I'm going to do, I am going to share some of the videos, storage protection, which may be taking you up to 1 hour to 1.5 hours to watch to completely understand how to protect the storage protection. After the class, I will share you the link, and then you will just access to those videos. Now we came to the design overview, right? You guys are able to see this workflow onto your screen clearly, or there is some problem, or maybe it is not so big.
No, it's clear.
Huh?
Clear.
Okay. So I'll explain that.
يا شباب ما اسمع شيء.
Yes.
تسمعوني؟
Who is there at that side? Someone is speaking, I think, right?
Yeah, Mr. Abdullah having some trouble with
His network, right?
yeah.
Okay, so suppose you are designing a sprinkler system, right, which is for the warehouse protection, and select that what kind of density curve I'm going to select, whether I should consider group A plastics, group B plastic, or group C plastics, right? So we'll go one by one. You read this one, right? So the first question you have to ask that, right? Does those commodities contain group A plastics, right? If your warehouse storage area going to take group A plastics, then we have to go to the next step, this one. If no, then we have to go group C plastic. You have to ask yourself either it's a group C plastics or group B plastics. If this is group B plastics or C plastics, we have to come directly up to this location and our design is finished. Means we can select our the density curve, the requirement, all based on group 4 class 4 commodities, right? But if your product contains greater than 5% of the plastics, right, by weight, or 5% plastic by volume, then we have to go to the next step, this one, right? And if your project containing only 5% of the group A plastics, we can keep 5% of the group A plastics into class 3rd or class 4 commodities, the one we discussed in the graph previously. Did you remember the graph, right?
Which graph you mean, Mr. Arif?
I discussed that graph yesterday. I'll just go back to that. Just wait a moment. This one, right?
Oh yeah.
We can keep 5% of the group A plastics by weight or by volume in class 3rd commodities. So if it is like that, we can keep 5% in class 3rd commodities. And if it is more than 5%, then we have to go to the next one, which is this one, right? Now they are asking that, does your commodities contain greater than 5% group A or greater than 25% of volume of expanded plastic? So 15% unexpanded plastics and 25% of expanded plastics is permissible, right? So again, you are at this location, right? Again, if your commodities, you are storing in your warehouse 50% of the plastics by weight of unexpanded plastics or more than 25% volume of expanded plastics. Again, the same curve, the one I go to the previous, right? So we can keep 15% by weight or 25% by volume of group A plastics into class 4 commodities. So if it is like this situation, we just have to come all the way up to this location and we select our design based on class 4 commodities. So this classification workflow is clear for you guys, right? Up to this point. I think you have to by your own on this course manual, and also you have to read fire protection handbook for more understanding. Okay. So if it is more than 25% of expanded group A plastics, right? If yes, then we have to go to this step, and if no, we have to come to this step. Like if the commodity doesn't contain greater than 25% by volume of expanded plastics, then we can consider it either expanded group A plastics, maybe cartoon or uncartooned. If we can, if again our classification is for the higher categories, we come to this point, right? Now is the fire behavior of the products, the plastics, is different for cartoon material and uncartoon materials. It means if you are placing your product without any packaging or without any cartoon, the burning behavior, the fire behavior will be different based on the exposed cartoon and exposed product plastics or unexposed product plastics. So these two things vary. So now we come to those points, right? The behavior of the plastic will be different based on the packaging. If it is open to the atmosphere, the fire behavior will be different. And if it is not open to the atmosphere, the behavior will be different. So we came directly to this location, right? Is the commodities contains in cartoon. You have placed your product in cartoon, means group A plastic into the cartoon. If yes, then we'll go to this point. If no, then we will understand that it is exposed expanded group A plastic. So this is the final design solution for this one. We have to design our sprinkler system for this criteria, that it is exposed expanded group A plastics is greater than 40% by group A plastics. We have to come to cartoon expand group A plastics. And if it is not greater than 40% by volume of expanded group A plastics, then we have to go for cartoon unexpanded group A plastics. So did you guys get the idea regarding the classification of workflow for different commodities classification?
Yeah, clear. So again, the same here. If we are talking about the example we discussed yesterday, for example, if we are designing a sprinkler system in, for example, a hypermarket or whatever,
Yeah.
we will directly select the highest risk, which is the cartooned expanded group A, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, clear.
Mr. Rafi, this
Yeah.
is like risk assessment or something for the project.
Yeah, exactly. This is like the risk assessment for the project, but this is the basic, the starting point of designing the sprinkler system. The design engineering professional will be responsible for this. If he selected the wrong commodities classification, right, and if something happens, so everything will come to the designer, because the company owner doesn't know what is the fire protection criteria for different products. So they will give this project to other fire protection consultant and designer. So consultant will make a draft that the contractor shall make sprinkler system plan, drawing, install everything based on their requirement. And once they install, they make the construction drawing, they will review the plan. The consultant will review the plan from the contractor, and after that, if it is approved, they will put the stamp for the approval. Once that project approved, they will start installing at the site. After the installation, before during the commissioning and acceptance test, again the fire protection consultant will come to the site, and he will witness all the possible scenario that they have installed as per NFPA requirement and their guidelines. If no, then again they will ask to make modification. Yeah, exactly. It is like a risk assessment, the one used goes for the safety. But here we have, this is the first step for designing a fire protection system for commodities classification. So this is just a storage facility system, right? Chapter 12 to 21 contains regarding this different kind of the storage requirement, how to store, how to put the racks, what is the height of the racks, what is the distance between two racks, what is the distance between the rack to the sprinklers, right? What should be the maximum height of the building, what should be the types of sprinklers, either it is ESFR or it is CMSA sprinklers, what is the minimum pressure requirement, what should be the design density, what should be the height. Everything, every question comes in your mind, right? For the storage, you have to go for chapter 12 to 21. As I explained in the beginning, for the storage, and chapter 21 is for up to from chapter 13 to 21 is for the different kind of the protection and arrangement into the warehouse, right? So if you are designing your system, you have to come directly to you have to come directly to this area from chapter 12 to 21 to design your sprinkler system. We discussed regarding the workflow from class 1 to class 4 commodities and storage workflow for group A plastics. Storage work for rubber, tire, and roll paper commodities. It is similar to the plastic process, but we have this different density curve for this kind of the arrangement. Okay, this is all about identification of hazard, occupancy classification. We discussed. I'll just go back. I'll just go back to Blackboard and I'll just give a summary of that one what we discussed so far. Right? We discussed light hazard, one and two. Then we discussed extra hazard 1 and 2, and all the way we came from class 1 to 4 commodities, and then group C plastic, group B plastics, and all the way to the group A plastics. So this is the starting point and basic building block for designing a sprinkler system. You must have to select the correct hazard classification for your project. Otherwise, if there is something going to change, it will not work, right? Suppose you design your sprinkler system based on light hazard, right? You understand this is like a office building, right? And later you want to change this one to the warehouse. It is possible to change this building to the warehouse or no? I'm just asking now because we discussed everything for the classification and all. So now it's a little bit of the discussion, how you are getting the point and all. You design your sprinkler system for the light hazard occupancies, and later you want to change that office to the warehouse storage. Is that possible?
No, it's not possible.
No, totally different hazard is there. We cannot go to upper classification. You can lower it, yes, from warehouse to light hazard office, but not the vice way.
We can go from the warehouse to the light hazard, but we cannot go in the higher hazard from the lower hazard area. This is the concept. And you know, most of the time the owner of the warehouse, we have seen lots of warehouse in the Dammam in all those areas. They don't know what is exactly a classification of that, so they used to give that on the rental basis. Maybe by time to time they change the classification without knowing the impact of the system in case of the fire is happening. But this is not permissible. It is totally obsolete. If you want to do, you have to again resize your sprinkler system based on the higher demand. So you guys have any questions from this classification, or we can move to the next topic?
Sorry, Mr. Rabi. We usually use the highest group A plastic in the warehouse.
No, we can. We have to know that. Suppose you know that this is your warehouse, right? This is your warehouse, and you want to place only. You know that I have to keep only 5% of the plastics, so you don't need to go for class A commodities for all. You just go for class 1 classification. Commodities. Keeping in mind, you cannot keep more than 5% of the group A plastic into this one. Or if you want to place 5% to 15%, like 15% of the group A plastics and 25% of the group A plastic, the unexpanded and expanded one, we can keep in the class 4 commodities. So if you are confident that my warehouse is going to serve for this project only and our requirement is very limited for group A plastics, we can go with class 3 or class 4 commodities, right, for a small project and a storage. But for facilities like the hypermarket, Lulu hypermarket, Hyperpanda, Amazon, or Souk, any kind, they understand that they have different kind of the material all over the years, and they have to keep placing different kind of the product, either group A plastics, class 3 or class 4. In that way, the best solution is that keeping in your future demand, maybe something happening in the future, we have to go for group A plastics. Because only we want to ensure the diameter of the pipe, types of the sprinkler system, and capacity of the pump. So pump will be a little bit of the higher classification. But this is a long-term investment. If you have any changes in the future, right, and changes more than 5% for commodities, it is not allowed. So it's based on the project to project, right? If you understand that I'm not going to store class A product, then it's okay. You got the idea? Okay. So moving on to the next topic. Now we came to designing of the sprinkler system. We have two ways of calculating the pipe size. So we have one with the pipe schedule system, and the other one we have the hydraulic calculation. So the most advanced one, we have the hydraulic calculation. We have to go with that one. But still, we can use those pipe schedule system for the project where we have the size of the project is small. Mostly, it is applicable for the old building or some of the building going under maintenance, and they want to extend that building. So in that case, you can use this pipe schedule system. So there are limitations for using the pipe schedule system. Normally, the pipe schedule system shall be permitted in following conditions, right? If there is any kind of the addition or modification for existing pipe schedule system. So there is a system already existing and you want to modify that one for some of the extension or some of the modification, right? We can use in that place the first one, right? The second one is that if you want to do addition or modification to existing extra hazard pipe schedule system, right? It is possible in the existing extra hazard pipe schedule system. But if your project size is more than 5,000 square feet, more than or less, we are not allowed to use pipe schedule system for that one. Again, we have some clause that if your area goes more than 5,000 square feet, and if you still want to protect that building with pipe schedule system, keep in mind that the minimum residual pressure should be 50 psi. 50 psi for this five schedule system. So what is the residual pressure? I think we discussed a lot in hydraulics, right? I hope you guys will remember and you will explain me what is the residual pressure and what is the influence of that on firing system flow requirement.
So just the residual pressure is the remaining pressure available in the system, which we can still get more flow until we reach to the minimum required pressure, which is 20 psi.
Yeah, exactly. The residual pressure shall be at least 20 psi when we have water flowing from at the maximum demand. Suppose this is your hydrant and you are discharging water from this hydrant, right? You are discharging at the full capacity. In that time, we should have minimum residual pressure or balance pressure of 20 psi at some hydrant far away from the main from the flow hydrant. So this is the idea. The 20 psi required for two conditions. The first one is that at 20 psi residual pressure, the flow and quality of the stream is good, right? We can get enough pressure and enough flow from the discharge nozzle, and we can fight fire easily. But if it is going below 20 psi, there might be some problem in that one. This is the first issue. The second problem, normally this concept of residual pressure came from the residual pressure concept come mainly from the municipality, right? The public water supply, which we are using for our plumbing work, for our hygienic, for our household and all, for drinking or all kind of the hygienic activities. So if the pressure goes below 20 psi into the piping, underground piping, what they fear, the public health agencies fear that there are chances that the groundwater may contaminated in the main water line. So if there are groundwater existing in those area, might be there will be some leakage into the pipe, which is almost, it is common in the underground network, which is very old, like 10 years or 50 years, there might be some leakage into the pipe. The outside water may go inside the drinking water facility. So for this one also they need at least minimum 20 psi so that nothing can come and mix into the water supply line under public health guidelines. And the second one for high steams and all, the one we discussed. So why they are asking 50 psi in the pipe schedule system? That in the pipe schedule system they don't have to perform hydraulic calculations. Without performing hydraulic calculation, we have to support by the manual calculation, by calculation by hand, by using some different table formula from NFPA 13 and supporting those to the consultant to do the plan, right? Mostly it's happening for some project which already has been installed. It is never allowed in the new project. Even those 5,000 feet, 5,000 square feet is allowed, right, for the new project. But nowhere in Saudi Arabia you can use any plan without hydraulic calculation in Elite software or the PipeNet or HAS or any other available software. But still we have the option for this.
Again, please, in Saudi Arabia, what?
We cannot use pipe schedule system. Normally they are not allowing this pipe schedule system. There we have to go with the hydraulic calculation option, to performing your calculation in the software. In pipe schedule system we don't have to perform it.
Calculation system, huh? Only.
Yeah, we don't have to do any kind of the calculation in pipe schedule system. We don't have any calculation in the software. We just have to do everything manually, right? This is our 1-inch pipe. We can put 2 sprinkler. If it is 1.5, we can put 4-inch sprinkler, and like that we can go up to our pump. So in that we don't have to do hydraulic. Don't have to do this one in the software. But again, this idea is almost obsolete now. It is no one is using a pipe schedule system for the new project. Mostly they are using for the in the past, and the project is still running. That billing is still going on. You want some modification. At that time, you can use the pipe schedule system with some limitation. So we have light hazard occupancies and ordinary hazard occupancies, right? We have a table for light hazard occupancies, right? So as I said, we are not going to perform any calculation in the software, right? So if you have to install sprinklers, so they are saying in 1-inch pipe you can put only 2 sprinklers. So if this is your line, okay, these 2 sprinklers shall be supplied by a 1-inch pipe. So if there is a third sprinkler and water coming from this side, right, the pipe size should be 1/4. So this pipe should be 1.25 inch, like 1.25. So similarly, we have to lay out our pipe sprinkler system into the plan. You got the idea? And we have different values, right? Because copper is different than steel. In copper, we have a less friction loss because of the roughness of the copper inside the pipe will be better compared to the steel material. You can use that one.
Mr. Rabi, if you come back to the schedule, I want to make sure if we can read it correctly.
This one?
No, the
The
schedule.
table, right? Okay.
The table. If I have 4 sprinkler, should I use
Right.
32 or 40 millimeter?
Where we have 4 sprinklers?
If I
Here,
have
right?
four sprinkler, for
You
example,
have to use 40 mm. You have to use at least 40 mm.
40 mm, huh?
Yeah, 40 mm for the steel pipe.
So it's not 32. If I have 3 sprinkler,
No.
32.
More than three sprinkler, we have to go for the the 40 mm pipe.
So for example, if I have 6 sprinklers, I use 50 mm.
Yeah, exactly.
تمام. Okay.
Because they have given a normal range, not like 2, 3, 4, 5, but odd number 2, 3, 5, 10, and so on.
Mhm.
What they are trying to say, I will explain in this figure. The figure we have, right?
Mm.
If the total number of sprinklers in this figure is let's say, let's come back into the table. We have, let's say, the pipe is 4 inch, sorry, the pipe is 3 inch, and we can keep 60 sprinklers. So if the total number of sprinkler is 60 into your project, the pipe from here we can put the 4 inch in 3 inch pipe. So in 3 inch pipe, we need 3 inch pipe from the riser. From the underground pipe, we take a tying point, put your riser valve and all the assemblies. So a main line, a riser inch can supply water to 60 sprinklers. And of course, when there will be fire, all the sprinkler is not going to activate, right? The only sprinkler in the design area is going to activate, right? Maybe this is 9 sprinkler, or maybe this 2 is 4 sprinkler will activate. This is the idea behind that. You got it, Ahmad?
Yes, I got it.
Okay, so what is the beauty of this one, right? You cannot use for this project. As you know, for new project, no one is using this one. But this one will give us one idea, right? When you are performing the hydraulic calculation in the software, right? Just make your plan in the software, sorry, in the AutoCAD, and put your sprinkler based on the pipe schedule system, right? Put your sprinkler based on the pipe schedule system all the way into the building, and then do the hydraulic calculations, right? I do the hydraulic calculation in the software. And at that time, if you are getting some high, the low pressure and all those, maybe you have 16 sprinklers and you are protecting with 4 inch, you can use the 3 inch pipe also in that. So first layout based on the pipe schedule system, and then perform the calculation in the software based on the same pipe size and length. And then what is the velocity, what is the pressure, demand, and all. We can adjust like this also. So when you are a beginner, right, and you want to do hydraulic calculation in the software, better try with this approach. In 1 inch pipe, we can keep only 2 sprinkler, and in 1.5 we can keep 5, and like that we can. Most of the project you can see for the sprinkler system like that only. But you have to calculate this one in the software, not manually, right? The one is the pipe schedule system. And now we have a pipe schedule system for, now the pipe schedule system is different for the light hazard also and for ordinary hazard. The number of sprinkler in the pipe size, light hazard will be different than the number of sprinkler in pipe size in ordinary hazard. So we have to be careful. Now again, what is the type of the pipe? It's also affect, because the copper is much uh, finished accuracy compared to the steel, because in steel there is a roughness factor. So those roughness will give some frictional coefficient and all. So we have to keep in mind. You can see at this one, right? You can see for this 4-inch pipe, right? The 4 pipe, if you can look at the steel pipe, we can use 100 pipe sprinklers in 4-inch. But if you are using the copper pipe, we can install 115 spindle. But again, copper is a little bit expensive than the steel. Why we are going to use the copper, right? It's costly. No one is using that one, except in some of the exception case they might use. So water requirement duration for the pipe schedule system is different than what we saw in our sprinkler system, right? For the light hazard, we need minimum 15 psi residual pressure for 60 minutes, and for ordinary hazards 60 to 90 minutes. The duration is the same. We cannot use this one for the extra occupancies, because we discussed in extra hazard the heat release rate from the fire, the combustibility and the arrangement of the material is so high that we cannot use this kind of the product. We have the best solution, the hydraulic calculation software. We have to do the calculation in the software. Okay, now we came to the hydraulically designed or hydraulic calculation piping, right? In hydraulic calculation software, we have to calculate those. We have to put the pipe diameter, length, the types of sprinklers, fittings, valve, everything. We have to put those value in the software, and then we have to do our calculation. Once we perform our calculation, let's say this is your sprinklers, right? This is sprinklers we have, and all coming from underground fire water network. So we have to get our calculation from this point, and once we perform our calculation while keeping the pipe size, pipe diameter, pipe type, the K factor of a sprinkler, the K factor for the sprinklers, and let's say we got a value of 350 psi, right? Sorry, 350 GPM at 45 psi. So this is what we'll get from hydraulic calculation software. They will give you that at this point, the input point, we need 350 GPM at 45 psi. So this is our demand. We got it from the hydraulic calculation software. Now to meet our demand, the supply at this line. So if suppose we are taking the water from the underground fire networks, right? It should be higher than the demand. It must be higher than that, so that we can take water easily from those underground fire water networks. So we have different hydraulic softwares, right? Hydraulic calculation software. We have the one we are going to exercise in our fire protection design, which is Elite software. I know you guys cannot come to the college because of the current situations, but I will recommend you guys to just go to the Elite software site. I think Ahmad know that one, and download from there 10 pipe node free version. That is more than enough to to perform the calculations. To understand how we have to perform the calculation, we input the we'll put 3 or 4 sprinklers with the piping changes and all, and we'll do our calculation. At least we should know the how we have to put the data in the software, and that is more than enough for the practice. And if you are performing some calculation for your project, you might need 50 node or 100 node or 1000 node or more than that, but that is chargeable. You have to buy those software from the site. But for now, I recommend to go with the hydraulics for the Elite software, and we'll do calculation in next week, not next week, in the fire protection design course. And there is another software. We have PipeNet, and we have HARS, and there are many software, but the Elite software is most common in Saudi Arabia for mostly for commercial project for designing a sprinkler system, selecting a pump and extend pipe system. But if you are going for the big project like industrial project, or you want to design your daily use valve and all those for project like in Aramco, Sabic and all, they are never going to accept the Elite software. So keep in mind this Elite software is only applicable for residential project and some commercial project. There no one is going to allow this software for a big project in the petrochemicals and oil and gas, because for those areas they will need more advanced software which will generate more accurate values, and there will be numerous information into that, the graph and all those things will never come into the Elite software. So we have to go with the PipeNet or HAS or maybe any other software which is approved. You guys remember those formula we discussed into the we discussed into our hydraulics lecture, right? Hydraulics for fire protection. Normally, this is a formula for finding friction loss into piping. So all the software have used this formula into their programming. So we just have to put the value of the diameter, right, the length, the C factor, and how much flow we are going to pass through the system. We can find the friction loss into the piping. Now, what is the friction loss? How to calculate those? I think we discussed a lot into the fire protection design, right?
Yes, we already discussed all of this, and the software do all of this, and also calculate the fittings and the equivalent length.
Yeah, we have to put the number of fittings between the nodes, then they will calculate. If you are not putting the fittings, then they are not going to calculate that one.
Exactly.
We have to make sure. Yeah, we have to make sure that one. We'll discuss that one in the under the design course. So normally those the friction loss depend on the friction factor, which is C, and the flow, right? If your flow is high, the friction loss is going to be high. We have to really make sure of that, because your C factor for the pipe is constant and diameter of the pipe is constant. So if this is going high and the downside is totally constant and the upside is going high, so it means we are going to get some higher value based on the flow. The higher the flow, the higher the friction loss, right? So if you are putting a flow of 500 GPM in 2-inch pipe, right, or let's say 1.5 inch pipe, you may need a pressure of around 200 psi or more than that. You need more friction losses to overcome and complete the situation. It's not possible. Okay, so this is the table for equivalent fitting loss. I think we discussed a lot into the hydraulics design for that. As Ahmad discussed a while ago, that between the nodes we have to consider the number of fittings, valves, and all kind of the arrangement to find exact friction loss. If you are not putting that, we might not get accurate values. So we have to put that one. Suppose this is your pipe, right? The pipe goes 90 degrees. We must need a bend. So at the bend, there will be more friction loss compared to the straight pipe. At the bend, at the T, in the valve, and all those, we have to put those values.
Mr. Rabi, just please, if you can explain what exactly you mean by the nodes and the sprinkler system.
I will explain that one. Just wait a moment. Let me go to the previous exercise. We have the node. Okay, so suppose this is a pipe, right? This is pipe. It is from underground to above ground we have the connection. So we will give this point as node 1. This is our node 1. It is going all the way from here to this location. If the pipes are, we don't have any node changes, right? But if there is a change in direction, right? Change in direction and the pipe size is the same. Suppose this is the now here we have one node, right? So this is node 1 and this is node 2. Since the pipe size is the same from 1 to 2, we can say that this is number of fittings. We have only one fittings in between that, and those is a maybe 45-degree elbow. So node is between two pipe changes or direction or elevation changes. We have to, like, this is our node 1. In this one, we just say this is node 1, and if there is a pipe changing at this location, if the size of the pipe changes, so this is node 2. So in between node 1 and 2, what we are getting. Normally when there is a change in diameter, right? When there is a change in the direction, vertically going upward and then take a right turns, so we need an elbow. So that will become again one node. You got the point?
Yeah, clear. So any change in direction or diameter of the or the diameter of pipe, then we will consider that point as a node.
Like suppose this is sprinkler we are taking in the hydraulical area. This is node 1. Sorry, this is node 1, right? And this is sprinkler is node 2. So if you are just supplying your knowledge, between node 1 and 2 we have one T, right? Because from the main pipe, this is the last sprinkler. So no T, we have one elbow, right? To put the sprinkler into that. On between these two nodes, between nodes 1 and 2, we have one fittings, because in the last of the pipe, to put the sprinkler into a fitting, we need an elbow, right? To put it downward or upward. So that is one node from, and this is node 3. We have this is node 3. This is node 4, and so on. So whenever we have one fittings or change in the direction or change in the diameter size, change in the elevation, we have to consider this as a node. Got the idea?
Yeah. So the and we usually also start from the riser or the water supply as a node 1, and we will go through the system, right? Or
yeah,
the
we'll go to the system. Normally in the Elite software, we have to come in the vice versa. You know, Elite software, we have to come from the must remote location. Suppose this is our must remote location. So in Elite software, we have this. So this is the must remote location. They will consider these 4 sprinklers like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, and so on. So the last one will be the last node. Like this we have to do in the Elite software. So number 1 is the must remote location in the Elite software. But when we are performing those calculations in the pipeline, they never worrying about the node and all. They're just worrying about which is the most far distant or at the remote location, and they will perform the calculation. And there is no meaning of that. In Elite, yes, we have to come from the remote location by keeping node 1 here, node 1, node 2, node 3, node 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So this is the way we have to put the node into our software for doing the calculation. Now, if you submit your plan for the approval, the general layout drawing, right? And here we have our sprinkler, right? Like this. So those 3 node sprinklers 1, 2, and 3. We have to show that this node also on our the layout drawing to support to the consultant who is reviewing the plan. He will take the general plan drawing, and then they will discuss this is node 1 and this is node 1 in this calculation in the Excel sheet of the software, and like that only he will review your plan. He will never review your plan if there is no node, but most of the time no one is seeing that one, they are just approving. But this is a real way, and we are going to discuss this one into the fire plan review. the noding and all.
Oh, okay, very clear.
And while doing calculation into the software, we have exercise into the next class, next to next. In that we'll also discuss this one because we have to go node wise. Okay, so now we have water demand requirement. This is a density curve, right? Design density curve for the light hazard occupancies all the way to the extra hazard group 2, not for the class 1 to 4 communities or group A plastics. So this is a general one, right? If your building is if you have a building of light hazard occupancies, and if you are selecting a area of sprinkler operation is 1500 square feet, you have to go into 0.10, right? Density. So normally we have to multiply the density of the water in GPM per square feet multiplied by the area of the operation. So if we are considering 1500 square feet multiplying by 0.10, then we'll get a value of 150. Right, so we need 150 GPM for the sprinkler system plus Ahmad.
Yes.
Plus how much? Plus 50 or 100 GPM for hose allowances, fire hose allowance, right? Because when the sprinkler is operating and fire department team came and they also started using the fire hose cabinet, you know, the pressure will be divided, flow and pressure will be divided, and neither the sprinkler system will work properly or neither those five hose system will work. So we have to give those allowance. Similarly, for the ordinary hazard, since the quantity of the fire and the heat release rate is high, it's in the moderate range, right? In the light hazard is in the medium, low range, but now we have the moderate, so we need to have 0.15 for 1500 square feet, or if you are going all the way to the 4000 square feet, we can take a value of 0.1. And again, if you are multiplying these two, we'll get some values and we'll come to some point. So the y-axis we have in area in the square feet into the design, and x-axis we have the design density curve.
So first of all, I just select the density first, then I see the area of sprinkler operation.
Normally, in NFPA code, if you are reading NFPA 13 chapter 11, they will say that minimum area of operation for sprinkler system in light hazard shall be 1500, right? So we cannot go below that one. So if you consider your area is 1500, we have to consider 0.10 for those areas. This is the concept. If even you can go below that one, if you go below 0.10, let's say you go 0.07, right? So if you are going 0.07, we need 3000 square feet. Again, if you multiply, the value will be almost the same, because you know we decrease the density, but the area of the operation is higher, so it is acceptable. We can take anything between this.
So if I have if I have, for example, 4,000 square feet light hazard, which one I use? How much will it be?
If it is 4000 square feet, you have to use, try to use 0.10. It's okay. No, it's for the 4000, the best one for you will be 0.05. Take the value at the 0.05. Yes, if you are taking this 0.05 multiplying by 4000, we'll get some values, right? We can't go, no, sorry, we cannot go 0.05. I'm sorry for that one. I didn't saw that one. Exactly, we can go maximum value of this one. We have to fall between this curve up to this one. It is 0 point, look like 0.08 or 7, right? We cannot go below 0.07.
But this is for 3,000, not 4,000.
This is for 3,000, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
What about 4,000?
even if you okay, I got your point. Even your building is, let's say your building is 4,000, right? 4,000 square feet. NFPA says for the light hazard, I didn't got your point in the first sentence. NFPA says for the light hazard, you have to only consider 1500 square feet design area minimum. So if your building is 4000 square feet, or let's say 4800 square feet, we have to still consider this value only. Either consider 1500 or consider 3000, not more than that. Okay, so we don't have to consider for complete building, because if there is a fire will originate either this area, those hospital will be activated, or either this area. Fire will start only one time. It's a single point calculation. Keeping in mind, we have to just make our design area, which is as for this table and NFPA requirements. No one going to select 4000 square feet in design area. That is not possible. It's almost not, it's like, it's not possible. Yeah, you can keep up to 3000, because they have given into your density curve. If you are taking your 3000, you are reducing your density, right, to 0.07. Again, if you are multiplying 0.07 to 3000 square feet, you will get somewhere. Let's multiply 3000 into 0.07. Our demand is 210. Our demand is 210 GPM, 210 GPM. And for 0.10 to 1500, our demand is 150 GPM. So any value is possible. Either take 1500 square feet with 0.10 or take 3000 square feet with 0.075. Up to you.
The design area.
A design area, we have to keep minimum 1500 square feet. You cannot. Why we want maximum? There is no limit for the maximum, but they said maximum. They have given graph up to 3000 square feet. We can keep 3000 square feet, but the density should be reduced. It's just like, you know, the capacity requirement for the pump is just like 150 GPM to 200 GPM plus and minus from the minimum design area to the maximum design area. This is all about those density curves.
Yes.
But if you are looking at the extra hazard group 2, right? Extra hazard say that the minimum design area we should have taken for extra hazard should be 2500, right? 2500 GPM at a flow of 0.40 GPM. So now the flow is increasing, right? The flow increased and area design also increased with a minimum of 2500. So at that month we need. So at that one, we need a higher flow requirement. So if there is a higher flow requirement, our pump capacity should be of higher value, right? If you multiplying 0.40, if you multiplying 0.40 into 2500, right? Our demand is almost 1000 GPM. Now you see how much capacity increase, right? 1000 GPM capacity of the flow, right? So our pump capacity for the extra hazard occupancies is much more higher than the light hazard. Sometimes for the light hazard you might need a pump of 250 GPM or 300 capacity will also work. For the extra hazard group, we have to select the minimum area. You got the point?
Yes, very clear.
Okay. And if you suppose that your building is only for 1000 square feet under light hazard, so you don't have any option. You just consider the area for those building, right? You don't have anything to consider, because the minimum we have 1500 square feet to consider in light hazard, but our building is only 1000 square feet. So just based on the 1000 square feet multiplied by 0.10, you will get whatever value, just like your system for that. And then as I discussed that we have to consider the hose allowance requirement, right? Hose steam allowance, keeping in mind if there is a fire, firefighter teams will come and they will try to fight from the hose also, from the fire hose also, right? They will go inside the building and fight the fire from the fire hose. So based on the hazard, we have to give allowance, right? For light hazard, we have to give 50 GPM or 100 GPM. Ordinary, we have to give 50 or 100 multiplication, but minimum 100 GPM for light hazard, 250 for the ordinary hazard, and extra hazard need 500 GPM. So we have to combine those density curve plus this hazard adds together to fight the fire for durations like 30 minutes or 60 to 90 minutes or 90 to 120 minutes based on different hazard scenario. And again, this one we are going to discuss in detail in the design of the sprinkler system, because there we have some exercise also to select the density curve and all. Just wait, I think my system getting hanged. Yeah, welcome back. Actually, there was some network issue from my side, so network just went. You guys are able to hear my voice now, right? Because there was a connection issue right now.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah,
Okay,
very
so
good.
so now we have how to lay out your system into your sprinkler system into a building, right? Someone used to prefer like this, just the branch line, main branch line, and then they have the branch line to the sprinklers like this, or maybe possible like this one. They have given pipe from all the four sides, and then they have connected after these locations. This is the arrangement. And another we have it's like a tree, right? This is a tree and taking water from a underground fire water networks. And the last one we have from the four sides. So these three options we have to normally when you are giving a layout for your sprinkler system plan, into a project, you have different options how you are going to plan, or how you are going to make your pipe connections, right? So in the looped sprinkler system, we have the multiple cross mesh and tied together, so they provide more than one path for water to flow. So if our supply from this side, right? So water will flow from this side and all the way going to that side, right? And also it will flow this side all the way going to that side. And now those water will also meet at this point, right? So in this loop system, we have advantages of hydraulically calculation. We'll get more line to flow the water, so we might get the advantage of the hydraulics. Like we may get the advantage of the pressure and flow added into the system. This is the looped one, and in the tree system, right? It is now again based on the project to project. If your project is of this criteria, what is the requirement for your project? How you are going to plan your layout, right? This one is a tree system, right? So this tree system, just they have considered from this point, node 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. And this is our underground fiber networks. So in this method, we have only one path for water to flow into a system, right? We have only one path to flow the water. And then we have a gridded system, right? In gridded system, we have a parallel cross mains and connected by a multiple branch line. So in this, a sprinkler will receive water from both sides, right? If there is a fire at, let's say this sprinkler are break side, this area sprinkler breaks, they will get water from this side also, they will get water from this side also. So from all the part, water will be going into the gridded system. So doing that one, we have less friction loss because the flow will be divided into multiple branch lines. So we have more friction losses. Sorry, we have advantages for the flow and the pressure. So if you want to minimize the friction loss into your pipe, or if you want to get the much advantage hydraulic point, right? If you want to get enough pressure and flow in these areas, we have options used like this one, right? So again, it is only possible based on project to project. If you have a big warehouse, right? If you have a big warehouse like this, so this arrangement is the most suitable for your project, because you will get the advantage of the pressure and flow, because the flow is coming from multiple paths. The flow will come from this point, or they might come from this point, or they might come from this point. So we have advantage of the flow. In that, the friction losses will be less. You guys got the point? Yes. Yeah, Ahmad and Anas,
Yeah, it's clear, Mr.
Muhammad Karni, right? Yes. Naif Algarian, Saud. Okay, it's clear then.
Yes.
كلير يا حبيبي كلير يا حبيبي.
Yeah. Okay. So we cannot use this system in one condition, one kind of the system. Why we cannot use this system into dry pipe system? We cannot use this arrangement in dry pipe system. I want to hear from Mutaz and Saud. These two guys are going to reply me first. Why we cannot use this arrangement for dry pipe system? Mr. Saud, what is the reason
Yes,
behind
go ahead.
that? Yeah,
The grid sprinkler system, yeah?
yeah. We cannot use the graded into a dry pipe system.
Control, my friend.
Okay. Now the next target is Ahmad and Anas. Why we cannot use this one into dry
Yeah,
pipe system?
again, the same concept that we discussed earlier, that more piping, that means more air to fill the system,
Yeah,
which
exactly.
will lead to later and delay the response on the water spraying.
That is the one case. The other case is that the air will reach from this side and water will come from that side, and the air will be still entrapped in between that. So sometimes there is a breakage at this point, right? And water is going from that side, and water is coming also from this side. So it will stop air to get released from the system. So while doing that, the air will not release completely from the piping. It will go one around, another around, and it will block the flow of the piping. So this is not applicable for the for dry pipe system. But this one is the best one if you want the advantage for the flow and pressure. We can use this one. Mostly you can find this kind of arrangement in this in some building. We don't have any kind of the obstruction like the warehouses or the big gymnasiums, some sport complex. This kind of the arrangement will be good for us. We have to do just put the main line 4 inch. Okay, all the four sides put the main line 4 inch. And then put the branch line 1.5 inch or 2 inch. That is more than enough. Start from here, 2 inch, 2 inch, then 1.5 inch, 1.2 inch, and 1 inch, and same from here. So you can use 1.5 inch from border side, and we can reduce the more cost for the pipe while getting our advantage for the project. Okay, now we come to the end of the design overview. It was just an overview. We'll be discussing regarding in a detail, but we'll discuss in detail for design course. Now we came for the water supply types, right? So we have different types of the water supply: public or private, fire pumps, water storage tank, pressure tank, gravity tanker, pinch tank, room, river, land, or reservoir, right? So I think we discussed a lot regarding the water supply into our unit fire protection one under the water tanks and fire tank supply, right?
Yeah, I think we discussed already all those subjects.
Okay. So moving on to our next topics again, acceptance test, right? Once you install your fire protection system, we have to go for the acceptance, right? So those acceptance will be we have to. Mr. Muattas, can you please silent your microphone? Okay, so we have to do we have to check the hydrostatic test, the one we discussed at 200 psi for 2 hours, and we have to check the if there is a leakage into the system. We discussed a lot regarding that in the previous sessions. The dry test for the dry piping and pre-extraction system operational test, water flow device, right? Just open the drain valve and then note down the time after how many seconds the water flow switch activated, and we are getting some signal to the fire panel, and then we are getting the water. Dry pipe system, time to trip valve and time for water discharge, right? At what time the valve open, and after how many seconds we are getting water to the most remote location. We can look for we have to look for the drain valve, right? The test control valve, pressure reducing valves, right? The correct functioning and the settings. Backflow prevention assemblies, right? Normally backflow prevention assembly, we have to look for that one also. How much friction loss is there from those assemblies. And then for the inspection, we have to go for NFPA 25, chapter 5. Now NFPA 25 is for the inspection, testing and maintenance for water-based fire protection system, right? So we while doing those inspection, look for the sprinkler system valve, whether it is open or closed, alarm check valve. In the alarm check valve, we have to look for the suction condition for the various function, right? What is the pressure we are getting in the check valve? The valve is open or closed. For dry pipe valve, we have to look the air pressure and the water pressure and any deficiency, right? And look for the fire department connection, piping, and the sprinklers. And for the maintenance, we have to look for this single system valve, alarm check valve, dry pipe, reaction and all. I think we discussed this one. And here we have, from NFPA 25, chapter 5, the frequency of the testing, right? What are the frequency of the testing for fire protection system, right? So if we have the gauge, pressure gauge, right? The pressure gauge for weight or dilute system, we have to look for this, means quarterly, right? Pressure gauge for the dry and pre-action system, we have to look for the monthly. For the hangers, the heat testings, all those things we have to refer to table 5112. So normally if you are working in a facility management area, or you are in charge for inspection, testing, maintenance facility, right? So you have to be careful regarding all those schedule. You have to put some register at your facility for ITM schedule, so that the operator or the technician will do it right time to time, and you have to witness that one. Those hydraulic signs should be always placed for the risers, should be nearby the risers or the HVAC system, which shows that the hydraulic sign will show that who is the owner of the company, what is the location of this riser, how much pressure and flow we need, right? When this system was installed, right? All those information we will find into the hydraulic system. If you want to know more about this hydraulic system information, I am recommending you to go to NFPA 25 and look for those in chapter 5. So if you want to check,
Mr. Rafi,
yeah,
who signed the hydraulic board this?
this one should be provided by the installation contractor, the one who installing the system. He will just put this one nearby the riser.
Okay.
Mr. Rabi, this is monthly or yearly or what?
This should be yearly, of course. Let's check here into this schedule. It might be here, right? You just check here. Hydraulic design information sign annually, because this is not a critical equipment, right? Even it's getting damaged also, it is not going to affect the fire protection system. So yearly once you have to look for that one. If it is there onto the risers with clear visible sign, there is no corrosion or nothing is there. You can look here in this one, right? So hydraulic sign and information should be checked annually. Normally this required especially for the firefighters. I think This required especially firefighters. The idea is that when there is a fire into a building and firefighter teams come to the site and they want to see what is happening. The
Department.
Yeah, fire department team. The firefighters team will come. They will, one guy will be there nearby the fire pumps. He will operate the fire pump, control the fire pumps. The other guy will be nearby the risers, the fire protection risers. And so some firefighters will be fighting the fire through the fire hose cabinet in different fire area. And the chief of the fire will be standing outside and giving the command to all the persons, right? So while the firefighters come to this risers, he should know what is the design capacity of this riser and what is the pressure requirement for this riser. They should know this one. So it should be there. If there is no information on that, they might not understand. This is the first criteria. The second one is that if the building is so big, we discussed that if the building area is more than 500 square feet, almost, right? Sorry, 500 square meter. We need different riser. This is riser 1, this is riser 2, this is riser 3. So if this area catches the fire, right, and they're trying to extinguish the fire, this area controls the fire and the fire goes to this area, right? So at the same time, they will close this the first riser because the sprinkler is broken in this area and water is going even there is no fire. So they will close this riser, right, and then they will control this one. This is the way how they control. The fire into building and fire is growing in big size. They have to control from the riser. If in one riser there is everything is finished, so they will just close that one and allowing the other riser to operate at current pressure and volume. So if they will not find the information and the location, they might not they might not work effectively to extinguish the fire. So this is we need mainly for the fire protection fire department team who want to see what is happening at all. If you can see here, they have given a location, the 5th floor, area 4, right? So if there is fire, the 5th floor, area 4, they will come to this riser and control from this side. This is the idea regarding the hydraulic side. Okay, so now we come for the inspection of the sprinkler, right? If you want to inspect the sprinkler, what you can check as for NFPA 2552111, right? You have to look for the leakage. If the bulb is leaking, or if there is a leakage from the fittings or from the threads, if there is any corrosion, physical damage, loss of fluid, coding or painting, right? So moving on to the next slide, look into this different figure, right? If you are looking at this one, in the sprinkler you can see there is lots of some foreign materials, right? This is not acceptable. The second one is totally look like it's totally freezed. Continuously water is coming into these areas and they damage the sprinklers. This one you can see what is the issue with this one.
This
Which
one
one?
Binted.
Yeah.
One on the right, top right?
Yeah, top right. The one I am just scrolling.
Yeah, the bulb, the glass bulb is painted.
Yeah, they have painted, so if there is a fire, it is not going to break easily. Means it will break maybe 2 times or 3 times at the temperature rating. And by that time, fire will grow, right? So we have to be careful. How about this one? The one at the bottom center.
This one rusty.
Yeah, this one is rusted also, but if you look at, there is no fluid inside the bulb, right?
I think this is old design, yes, Ravi, right?
Yeah.
Old design, this.
What you said, all design?
The sprinkler.
Okay.
Maybe it's work with air. No need for fluid.
Yeah, it will work for air, but no. Normally, this the concept of breaking this fluid is that there is a liquid inside that. So if those liquid will get heated, right? If those liquid will get heated, it will expand. It will expand so much that it will break the glass. Now, if there is no fluid, it might be break, but at higher temperature.
Yes.
Right? It will break at higher temperature. By the time fire will be destroyed complete building. So no use of working for that one. Okay, khalas.
But how the fluid can be
And what is the,
emptied from the bulb?
I don't know, maybe by time to time, sometime, by time to time there might be, due to some condition, environmental condition, the fluid loss. It's happening. It's the real photo from NFPA handbook. And how
Oh.
this fluid loss, maybe we have to study NFPA 20 handbook in complete detail. And how about this one in the left?
Yeah, nothing wrong with this one. Shiny and clean, mashallah.
Yeah, everything is wrong with this one. What happened? They put the sprinkler into the piping before the finishing of the building, right? A sprinkler system should be installed into the last when the building is completed, painting, everything done. Just put your sprinkler. They put in the beginning, and then they are doing concreting, finishing, and the masonry works for the construction, and everything destroyed, right? So no, there is no use of this piping in the sprinkler. So we have to be careful regarding that one. We have to put the sprinkler piping here only after the finishing of the building, not in the beginning. Otherwise, they will destroy everything, right?
Mr.
Because
Rafi,
yeah,
who responsible for check the sprinklers?
if you are this is your building, right? You install your sprinkler system before there will be person coming from civil defense to approve the plan. That I have seen everything. If he is coming at this side and he looks like this one, he said no, it is not possible. Try to replace all the head. And at the same time, the consultant will also come. The consultant who approve your drawing. Consultant approve your drawing and he will say you make your installation based on this drawing. And once you complete installation at the time of acceptance test, let me know so that I will join along with you and I will see that you have made the plan as per our requirement. Otherwise, we will not. We will consider it a violation. The point. So it might be a consultant review from the third party consultant, or it might be from the civil defense or any kind of the ASJ authority having jurisdiction. Authorized person will come and look for this. And at this one, you can see it is corroded, right? It's totally corroded and it is out of control. The sprinkler head and everything is corroded, so it will not break easily. Regarding this point, how this liquid loss from the fluid, I think this question asked by Anas. I will look into the handbook and I will come back to you.
Okay.
And we have to look for the spare sprinkler also. If you are going to inspect the building at the site, we must have to keep in mind that there is at least 6 number of sprinklers for 300 sprinklers. If it is between 300 to 1000, we have to keep minimum 12. If it is more than 1000, we have to keep minimum 24. With a range and each type of the sprinkler. The idea is that if there is a fire and all the sprinklers is damaged, maybe 5, 6, 7. Those sprinklers need to be replaced, right? Immediately after the fire gone, you have close the main control valve, discharge the water, replace the sprinkler system, put back into the service. So you have to be make sure that if you are inspecting a site, that they have included this kind of the arrangement at the site. And again, at time to time, the inspection team will see this kind of a requirement. We have to, for the mechanical water flow devices, right? The vent type or pressure switch, if it is activated correctly. Look at this one, right? If you are inspecting, this is a mechanical alarm bell, right? Mechanical alarm bell for the sound, but look like this is not working. This is not working for so many times. And when the inspector go to the site and he look, there is a honeybee nest, right? So while there is a fire and water is coming, try to rotate those blade on this steel. There will be no sound, or the sound will be totally different and much less compared to the design one. So it is not acceptable? Okay, so here we came to the end of module 1 of your system. If you have any question, we'll discuss, and before moving to the module 2, which will start after maybe 20 minutes from now, and we'll go for 40 minutes there. We'll stop at 6:40, and then we'll start again tomorrow.
Okay.